Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think what I was going to say to Jake too, and based off of the you just mentioned, education. It's so funny because I hated school so much, and then when I left and went on tour and started touring with bands and stuff, like I would not stop reading, and it was the funniest thing because you couldn't put a book in front of me in high school and make me read it. I hated it. And then I got out of school and then started researching exercise physiology and all these other things that interested me that like I became extremely good at. But it's like, I think education for me, and I read probably, I don't know, 3 to 4 books a month, depending on my schedule, if I can, and the length of them. But to that point, I always ask people, what's the number one book that you have read that either changed the course of your business life or you found a different direction on a personal level that helped you sort of come to where you're at now?
I'm going to get mine real quick.
While she's doing that, I think it's an interesting question because I think in different seasons of your life, different books will do things to you.
Sure.
Because, you know, what I knew in my 20s, Rich Dad, Poor Dad changed my outlook on just earning income, right? I'd never had that perspective before. You know, I was 21. And so I think it can be different for everybody. Because I'm actually reading a book right now that I would have just laughed at, 15 years ago. But now it's blowing my mind, so.
That's awesome.
Is it, Chantel?
Oh my God. All
you
right.
got it?
Yeah.
Wait, let me put it on speaker view so we can see it. There we go.
Oh no. Okay. So when I was at my lowest of my low, right, and I had like nothing, no hope, I found this book in the airport, and it's the best book I've ever read in my life.
Yeah.
Not kidding. Like it highlights neuroplasticity. It highlights like the power of positive thinking, and it really like takes the veil off your eyes. So my favorite.
That's amazing. I love that.
Let me go back to the show question first real quick, and then I'll share my book too with you. Actually, it's a really great question, Mike, because I think what started with, we were just like-minded individuals that at the core were very similar and yet so different, right? And I mean, we do this every weekend. I mean, so it's, how many times do you spend time with people that you clearly just absolutely respect and appreciate and, want to spend time with them?
Yep.
Do this, sharing stories of other people and at the same time getting to know one another. So, the vision, I don't think in the very beginning we could have imagined how wildly, in each of our minds, like what Katie said, we might not ever make a cent out of this. But in my mind, it's been wildly successful because we've created conversations, right? We've brought attention to other people that for us, maybe we didn't ever know anything about them. And we're it's kind of like it's the humanizing aspect or kind of like the raw and finding out things. And not every story has to be like, sad or mad or angry.
Right.
But those are the things that when we sit here and talk, like people are like, oh, I didn't even think about that memory until you guys asked about it. But they felt so comfortable sharing it and talking because of just the way that we all kind of have this chemistry amongst one another. Yeah. And so the vision of trying to take it to the next level, we've actually accelerated those conversations amongst ourselves and, started to reach out to other people to gain some insight into that. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you said about the live version because we've been bouncing around ideas of trying to do like taping a live version,
Sure.
on site with the guests, which we're trying to constantly evolve and move and go as fast as we can because there's other people that are starting to do it and we're not the only ones, but we definitely know we've got something that's meaningful to us and to the community. And that's what's important.
Yeah, and I think you guys are obviously solidifying the brand of what this actually is, and I think it's awesome. And I think, I mean, from an outside looking in, I could totally see the transparency of bringing this to a live setting, getting, it could be and you could do like I think about things in touring aspects from band days. So it's like doing a Dallas one, going to
a good promoter, right? I mean,
what's that?
Yeah, a good promoter.
Yeah, I know. but I mean, I think it's really the concept of it though is really cool. And I think if you did it like live events, you know, if you go like, I wouldn't say Tony Robbins ass, but you know what I mean? But you can have this really powerful impact on people live. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, appreciate that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
What's your book, Sonny? I want to know.
Yeah, so I actually, it's funny. So one of my favorites over time has been Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And so I love Jake's point about at any stage in life, you know, you could go back to it and be like, what the heck is this all about, right? But so look, I'm a fan of 3, so I'm going to give you 3. But Marcus Aurelius Meditations is my absolute number 1 favorite that I can go back and, you know, I like to underline and write in my books, and then that way when I share them with other people, they can see it and they can jot and add their own notes too, and then I can go back and refer to it. Cool. My second one is Walden, you know, by Henry David Thoreau, because I was at a point when I think I was either deployed or training, and you know, just at a moment that was completely away from family, friends, and everybody else. So that book was absolutely powerful because he chose to put himself into that situation. Yeah. You know, and I mean, I did too. Technically, I signed on the dotted line. But that book it gave me a different perspective of kind of like the beauty of nature, and you know, like you have to know yourself. And then my third one is kind of like a lighthearted one, but not really. The Godfather, because it talks about family, right? And it's so raw, and it's just powerful, and it's, you know, some people might not like, you know, the mafia, but I absolutely love the fact that, you know, they do anything for family, right? And for me, that's what's important. And I haven't always been the strongest with my family, but then you look at this screen right now, like this is my family right here, right? There's a couple of others that on LinkedIn, like when we say LinkedIn fam, like it's starting to really develop into that we would probably do whatever we could to help one another out. Right. And you included, Mike. So
yeah, no, likewise. And I appreciate that. And it's funny that you mentioned the mafia. I'm obsessed with the 5 families. I've been researching the mob since I was a kid. And it's funny because we had some like family ties to certain, which I'm not going to go into, but we had some family ties to certain aspects of the Italian mob. And but outside of all of that, if I look back and you look back at the structure and the creativity they had to develop their models to hide money and make it look legit, it's ingenious. Like the 5, like how they operate, it's the most ingenious way of operating businesses. And they had nothing to base it off of. They were like, no, this is what we're going to do. And they were the most creative people, I think, when it came to that. Now, granted, they were murdering everybody on the planet, but you push that aside and you look at the structure of how they organize their businesses, unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing.
I love how Mike was casually like, I'm part of the mafia, but I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that right now.
Actually, no, I could tell you that story. So my uncle, so this is my grandmother's brother, who's passed away now. It's years. But he used to run numbers for the mob, and he was like, he wasn't necessarily a part of it, but he was an outside affiliate, if you will. The story goes, my mom's told this to me a bazillion times, and I laugh every time. But so it was he was never around. He was always traveling, and everyone says I'm very similar to him because I like to show up. I like to be the life of the party. I like to get everyone hyped up and tell us funny stories. And so he was a world traveler and went all over the world traveling, and he was a builder and all these different things. Anyway, he got hooked up with the mob somehow through mutual friends. And one Christmas, he had come home, which unexpectedly, no one expected him to be there. And he was telling this crazy story at the dinner table. Everyone's laughing and like crying, laughing, you know. And I guess a police car pulled up to my grandmother's house, and he saw this, like the red light out the window, and he just goes, ah, and like he said something, and then like booked out the back door, and no one saw him for 2 years. So, but what happened was the woman across the street had like passed away or something, but they weren't even there for him. And had no idea. Like legitimately ran through the snow, like without his clothes. Like he was just like running through, and then like no one saw him for 2 years. But every month they get a postcard from a different state that he was in. and then it was blank. There was nothing in it, but they just knew, oh, that's where Louis is. Oh, that's where Louis is. That's where Louis. Yeah, it's really funny.
Louis.
Well, he has the name. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Louis wasn't in the mob. Uncle Louis.
Yeah. There's like some old pictures of me when I was a little baby, and like he's holding me, and it's funny because like I wish I had remembered him, and wish I got the chance to actually have like proper conversation with him, like present day. I feel like we would have been the best of friends.
What about Lacey and Katie? What are your guys' gals' books?
I mean, I've kind of been on a little bit of a journey of, some self-awareness and kind of trying to figure out how to, I don't know, bring in happiness without having external sources, because I struggle with that. And so the one that I read, and I didn't read all of it because I kind of just was piecing it together and taking what I wanted from it, but The Power of Now. So that one, I've taken some pieces from that one recently that I don't know, I thought was really interesting, because I struggle with existing in the now too. I'm always like, okay, well, in the future, like things will, if I just get, I'll be better. And so like that one actually helped me. And the one I'm reading currently is Seth Godard, the Purple Cow.
Oh, it's excellent. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one's, I don't know, that's blowing my mind. So
All his books do that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely, it's definitely like it's definitely a certain type of like individual to appreciate his work, because I've recommended it to a lot of people, and some people just don't get it, and the people that do are like, oh my god, like I love that dude so much. He's brilliant.
Katie.
So I'm just gonna give you guys a quick list of books, okay? So Be Here Now, Ram Dass is a solid one. Island by Aldous Huxley. Island or Brave New World are probably like, that's why I named my company Hux Sustainables, because of Huxley. So those, the Bhagavad Gita was like has been very influential on me. Somebody Let Me Borrow, which I think you guys would all enjoy also. The Power of Habits. Have you guys read that?
Mike, read that.
Yeah. Mike.
I actually have read it.
Saying, not saying.
It's good. It's really good.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's all of mine. Like the main ones that just The Immortalist by Alan Harrington. Have you guys read that?
I've heard of that.
Pretty solid. It's good. It's kind of hard to find, but it's really good.
I would recommend to you guys too, one book that was a pretty influential book for me. It was called The Slight Edge. Not sure if you've heard of that. A guy named Jeff Olson wrote it. It's definitely a really interesting story, because he talks about like him as this beach bum kid, like with no direction in life, and then he became this multi-billionaire owning all these companies and stuff. But it's just the story of like, learning who you are and establishing like the groundwork to build off of. I thought it was so unique, and I could relate to it so much. I would say that book, a book called Give and Take, which is probably one of my favorite books I've read. Essentialism was another one too. Probably that's in the last couple of years that I read that I thought was impactful, as far as just getting rid of, like, I'm definitely a minimalist aspect of my life. I'm pretty simple. I don't need a lot to to fulfill my place. But I think after reading that book, I looked in my closet, I looked in like all my stuff, and I was like, God, I'm getting rid of like half this right now. I just wanted to like live as minimal as possible. But it's also interesting because the essentialism mind, he talks about, not like, if you're an essentialist, you don't say yes to every single thing. You're saying what's essential to you and what your journey actually is. So saying no and sort of appropriately sort of power framing your thoughts to make sure that you're always in alignment with where you want to go is essential to you. That was a big takeaway for me too. But yeah, I would definitely recommend those books, guys, for sure.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
We need to start our book club, Mike.
What do I call it? Oh, hashtag page burners.
Page burners. Page burners for life.
I was like, that's such a great name. I love it.
It is you're genius, man. Mike doing his work. Just Mike doing his work.
That's awesome.
Well, Mike,
Actually,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, I have one more question for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I love to talk to people about and ask them is, what is the rose and what is the thorn, either in your business or in your personal life?
Oh boy.
We might steal that.
Ooh,
Dude, yeah.
That's good.
Well, and I'll give credit where credit's due. There was the gentleman I met. You guys know Paul Dio? Have you talked to him at all yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a longtime buddy of mine from Boston. But he connected me with this gentleman, and I'm totally forgetting his name. But we met one day in Cambridge. Had a killer coffee meeting, and it was great. But he was just like, "Hey man, so tell me, what's the rose and thorn in your life right now?" And I was like, "What?" And it just like it resonated with me so much. And he's like, "Well, because everyone wants to talk about the beautiful things and everything that's great, but like what's really like the thorn in your side?" And I was like, "That is brilliant. I love that so much. I've literally been using that for the last 4 years. It's one of my favorite things ever."
Dang.
Who's going
Why don't you
first?
kick us off, Mike? Tell us yours.
Yes.
What's mine?
Start
let's
it.
do it.
Rose, I think. Rose for sure. There's a few projects that have come to fruition that I've been quietly working on for the last probably 4 months, and I'll probably be able to talk about it more like publicly in the next 2 months or so. That I'm super, 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 super fired up on, and yeah, it's going to be completely transparent with everything I'm doing, but take things to a different level. So I'm really excited about that. Thorn, I would say probably right now, I think there's definitely like family stuff going on that I'm not. That's the other thing too, like living out of state, like living in Milwaukee and not being in Massachusetts, has its ups and downs for sure. I love, like Sonny, you talk about family. I come from a big Italian family, and I love my family so much, and it definitely is hard when I'm here, and I'm kind of like in my immediate family, I'm definitely the glue that holds everything together. I've realized since I've moved after 1.5 years, all of a sudden I feel like my parents have like aged like 10 years. I'm like, what's happened? Like, how are you why are we having these conversations now? I'm only 34, And so like, I've realized being away to this point now where like all the family stuff that's going on that I have to deal with from afar is just like, it really throws me off course because I hate not being there. And now I'm like getting to a point where I probably have to fly home a bit more frequent, maybe bi-monthly, which I'm actually happy about, but it's kind of not for the best reasons. So I'm sort of like, that's probably my biggest thorn at this point for sure.
That's cool.
Would you say it's possible for them to be really much different between personal and business? And wouldn't they largely affect? Because I guess you could have more surface level thorns, but like I'm just thinking of mine. I'm going, my rose and my thorn largely reflect the struggles and joy I have in the business.
Sure. Yep, definitely. Well, I mean, I think personal, like, so your personal life still affects your business still affects your personal life. So really, it's with the rose life period. I think that's probably the best way to say it.
So what are they, Jake?
Let's see. Well, Rose is network's the wrong word, but it's not all family. But my network, my people, whether they're network or their family, it's all people. That's a definite. I'm in a good season for that. Kind of like Sonny was saying. So that's definitely, it has so many advantages from a personal standpoint, just to get to know people and to have people you can talk to about stuff that aren't necessarily work, even though you met as work friends, right?
Yeah.
But then also in business, of course, to have people that actually care about you and what you're trying to grow, give selflessly of their time, and not ask for anything in return. And it's not coming. That's the type of people that you love to. And there's more of those people out than I've ever had in my life around me right now. So that's very cool.
That's awesome.
The thorn is always focus for me, and hyper focus is probably even the better way to put it, because it's always, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're creative, Mike, things always look like an opportunity in your eyes. You're always constantly going, gosh, I would love to do something with that.
Yeah.
So it's always about, man, how can we get that out of the picture and hyper focus on what's happening right now, like powered now, Lacey, right? It's like being in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's interesting too on that, Jake, because it's like, it's impossible for me. Well, I can't say impossible. I like to have my hands in a lot of different things at once, because that's actually how that's actually what balances me. If I know I'm like, I have a lot of variety, I can deal with, 17 different things in a day, that maybe other people's minds might look like it's completely insane, but it's the thing that actually doesn't actually fulfills me and like my mind to really diversify everything I'm doing. So I think to that point, I think when I read Essentialism, dude, that's really where I started to realize, like, the things that I know sound really great at first listen, but then on the flip side of that, I'm like, but then the backside of that, I'm going, well, I already know how much time is going to go into this. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do this. I mean, people talk to me about doing podcasts and stuff, and I'm like, I know what goes into that, and I know like the amount of work, as you guys know, doing this. It's like, I just know where I want to go with things in my life, and the things I'm saying no to, I'm not really bummed out about it, whether it turns into something great or not. I'm happy with where I'm at and where I'm going. So I think that book might be instrumental for you, bud.
It's on the list. I wrote it down.
Good.
Mine's the same. My rose and my thorn are the same, to be honest.
Hufflepuff?
Yeah, right.
Every
So
time.
I'm heading back out into the wild, like leaving my, my current 9 to 5. So like, part of me is like, hell yeah, this is the best. Like, I feel like I live like a super beautiful life. But then on the other side of that, it's like, holy shit, I'm leaving my 9 to 5. You know what I'm saying? And like, even though like I know like it's up to me. Like I have total control over the situation, right? But there's still gonna be like this, it feels nice to show up to a place and they give you a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Like I trade my time for this paycheck, but now it's just on me. So yeah, so I'm excited about it. It's definitely like showing me a lot about myself and like how I've tried to fight it for a long time. And it was pointed out to me recently that, so I've been looking for like things and people to blame for why I have to leave my current job, when in actuality, I want to leave the job because I don't want to do the job. And it's really hard for me to say that I don't want to do this. I would rather say it's your fault that I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? So
sure.
It's definitely been an exciting and crazy past couple of months, but like I'm ready. That was really long. I'm sorry, I'm done.
No. Well, actually, to that point, Katie, what do you feel? So when you talk about trading time for dollars, it's interesting because that was the concept when I shifted into doing remote coaching for my online business, when I was making recurring revenue off of really, like, I remember I was on the beach in Belize, and I had like $1,000 something went into my PayPal account. And I was like, I'm literally getting hammered on the beach in Belize and I just made money. This is awesome. Like that whole concept of like detaching yourself from having to be somewhere for a certain amount of time to make X. Are you struggling with that sort of now that you're transitioning, knowing that like you're sort of guaranteed this if you work this much time, but now that you're away from it, you're more like it's almost like, well, now you're in the point where you're at the mercy of yourself, right? So what you reap is what you sow. And so the guaranteed of, well, this week I may not make any money, but next week may be the best week of your life. And then the following week might be the worst. So it's like that up and down. Is that really what you're struggling with right now for the most part?
Yeah. So I'm very I have to fight against this a lot just because I love to travel and I love to be in new environments, but I'm very I have to have structure or my brain gets very, very fuzzy. And so I have to even in the chaos, I have to find some sort of structure or I will fall to shit. That's just what happens. Every time, I know it. So I think it's the fact that they give me working for a company gives you so much structure because, every 2 weeks or every whatever, I have something coming into my bank account, and this way it's ooh, what's going to happen? Am I going to make money? Am I not going to make money? Am I going to crash and burn? I don't know. So I don't know. It's fun. It's fun.
Can I also recommend another book to you? I'll probably do this with you guys, everyone. You are a badass at making money from Jen Sincero. It's ridiculous. It's I think everyone should read it. It's a really cool concept because it's taking this whole sort of where you're at right now and that transition going from working consistently for somebody else for X amount of time to then going on your own to then betting on herself and taking out, I think she took out $100,000 loan and then paid it back within 6 months. It's just this whole concept of she had 2 kids, there's all this stuff. But I think really where you're at, that sort of transition of going from working for somebody then to doing it yourself, it's really weird that when I made that shift for myself and I started the gym, I was terrified. It was the worst decision ever because I had no idea what I was doing. And then after year 1, I was like, oh, I get how to function. I understand this whole concept. But when you can kind of sit back and realize that, it's terrifying, but it's also so invigorating to know that wow, I'm making this happen myself. And I don't want to blame anyone else for my wrongs or my failures or anything. It's I'm just going to go out and see what I can make happen and throw it against the wall and hopefully something sticks. And eventually, you figure it out. But I think that book might be a game changer for you right now.
Yeah. I have a list of books that I'm going to order just from this talk just now. Funny that you say that though, because the more people you talk to, the more people are because you feel you are, am I doing it right? Am I doing this right? And everybody around you is thinking the same thing. They're I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This is right. So everybody just kind of has.
Yeah, and I think I came to the conclusion that everyone sort of when I remember, I think I talked about this recently, but I had this old therapist when I was younger, and I was going to him for all these answers and things I needed in my life. And I remember after one session, it was a Friday. And I was like, man, I feel like you're the king and you have such great guidance, all this stuff. He's like, Mike, I'm more fucked up than you are, dude. I have 2 therapists that I see each week. And I was like, wait, what? That blew my mind. And I was like, oh my God, you're broken like me. Yeah, let's go get drinks. It was this whole So I think that notion of even the people that are doing it successfully, they still have coaches. They still have therapy. I mean, everyone needs something. So I think you'll figure it out and how to do it. But at the end of the day, everyone's still trying to figure it all out, no matter how successful they are.
Yeah, man.
If you don't use goodreads.com, I recommend it because it's a great place to keep. Right now, I'm typing these in, so awesome. It's on my list, right? But it's a public list, so.
It's snowing.
Oh.
Play in the snow.
Yeah, we'll go play in the snow.
Sonny, where's Ohm?
It says, here. You say hi?
So Ohm's mom flew back in after being gone for a week, so they're having lunch and catching up on some bonding time right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll go my rose and my thorns. So my thorns are actually the ones that just keep me. Oh wait, sorry. Go ahead, Chantal.
on the fire truck this quick.
Me?
Oh.
Yeah.
No, we're
What?
listening to his Rose and Thorn.
I'm so sorry. Just a second.
Amazing.
We're missing a truck for this guy here, okay? This is an emergency.
That's his thorn.
Yes. That's definitely his story.
Where's my truck?
Awesome.
It's funny. So the thorns are the things that kind of keep me real. They're the ones that keep me moving in the right direction. And it's not so much pain points, but it's the things that are bringing attention to things, right? So everything that actually everybody else has said so far. So taking that leap into business, being an entrepreneur, if it's time, if it's priorities, if it's making sure that you're putting it in the right spot. Like my rose is literally everything and anything that's happening right now. And honestly, like when people see, my posts, I always end with that gratitude piece of LinkedIn video to LinkedIn and Microsoft. And it's not to showcase the companies, but it's to showcase, like, I would not have this conversation with any one of these people if I wasn't part of that beta group. Like so if you guys didn't see it, so Goldie was in town yesterday, and I was picking her brain for a couple of minutes, and she had I said, you realize, like, I never would have known any of you if I didn't get included in that. And so my rose is that it has completely changed a lot of things that happened for me. So, like, from Katie's perspective, it's changed my career trajectory, right? From Jake's perspective of priority of time with people, it's changed that completely. Opportunities. I mean, I already threw this out there earlier this year. Like, I'm going to write my first book. That never would have happened if I wasn't tie it back to this opportunity, right? And so for me, that this rose is, it's connectivity, right? But and I'm not tying it to one simple thing, but everything that has happened, I can tie it back to that one singular instance of being given the ability to create videos on LinkedIn Video, right? So yeah, I mean, I can say that because it's truth. Now, everything that happens from that is a bunch of other awesome and beautiful and wonderful things, and people and projects and visions and like all of it. Like I want all of it. Like, I want to be able to just keep it so broad that I can help or be a part of those types of things. And that's where the thorns are too, right? So the thorns are, now people are like, kind of like to your point, Mike, like, oh yeah, like, do a podcast. Like, I'm like, yeah, there's a reminder, do a podcast, but nope, I don't have time because, we just launched a consulting company or the show, or, it's like, whatever it is, they're reminders to me. And this is what Goldie and I were talking about. They're reminders to me to remember what's my vision, right?
Totally.
So what's that mind map of what is important, and making sure that those thorns keep punching into me to remind me, wait, remember, this is what's important to you now. And so that's so Goldie and I were talking a lot about that, because most of you, and Mike, you've been in the startup business for years, right? So you realized it, you lived it. Jake, he's been doing it, Katie, Lacey, Chantel just launched. Katie and Lacey, myself, we're all just kind of getting into it now.
Yeah.
But those thorns are things that I've learned from people that have been doing it for a while. And then what I was sharing with Goldie was like, well, because I'm so new, I've got this brand new perspective of, well, have you thought of doing this? Because I've never been there. So there's no wrong question to ask from my perspective. So those thorns are like, well, how can I continue to share and remind myself of what's important? And it's always the same things, right? Family, which it continues to grow, right? That time, which is the most important commodity. And then that vision. So, like, where am I really trying to get to? And is everything I'm doing leading to that continued vision? So those are my rose and thorns.
It's interesting too, Sonny. When we talked, I think like a week or two ago, you and I, it was funny because I think what I mentioned to you that I thought nowadays, like, if I was just starting my ventures into startup and entrepreneurship now, knowing that, like, we have access to all these great minds, which I didn't back then. It's insane. Like, I had nobody to guide me. I had no one to talk to. I was like sitting and crying in the gym at night going, oh my God, how am I gonna get people in here? I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And so, like, of course I read all the books, and then I finally found a mentor that to this day still guides me and everything else. But it was that, like, if I had more online, like we do here, and have this whole concept of, like, people in our pod or whatever to reach out to know that we can chat with people and have, sidebar discussions about what next steps or what guidance they may see that I'm not, we're not seeing. It's like, it's gonna skyrocket and sort of help you avoid all the pitfalls that I could tell you 1,000 ways not to do something now, and what to avoid and what to look forward to. But it's just, to me, that's one of the biggest assets I found with LinkedIn at this point, is that I feel more connected with people I've known for 5 months than I do with friends of mine back home that I've known for 20 years. It's insane.
That's
right?
it.
It's mind-boggling.
Agreed.
The dead silence.
Lazy.
Well, I think mine are pretty simple right now. I think if I were to just like take it and boil it down to like right at this minute, like what are they? And I would say my rose probably is for my daughter. Like she just had a 3-year-old checkup, and the doctor was like, oh, she's super healthy kid. And I'm like, I'm so thankful for that. Like, that's just a huge, like, you know, brilliant portion, which I think she's knocking on my door. And then I would say my thorn is probably kind of similar, lack of direction or lack of focus on, you know, where I'm going in the future, and not even being able to like figure out like where I'm going to go. So I can't actually figure out the steps to get there because I don't know where I'm going. So it's just kind of like up in the air, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of throwing things around, like throwing balls. But so yeah.
Excellent. Chantel, you.
I've been thinking about it this whole time, trying to like get a better answer, right? But my rose would be, oh hi.
Oh my God, she's so cute.
All that hair.
Oh.
She's so cute.
So my rose would be opportunity, because especially now that all of this is going on, the sky's the limit, right? And I just launched Stardust, and I have leads coming in, and I got to evaluate, you know, who's qualified the most that I can give my full heart to, so that I can provide the exceptional quality. So, and then there's all the other opportunities that, you know, keep knocking. And my biggest thorn that's keeping me back is myself. I know that sounds super, super, super like self-centered, but I like fears, self-doubts, lack of confidence, myself.
Okay.
A good one.
I'm the shrug emoji all the time. Like, I don't know what's happening right now.
I'm the purple suit dance emoji. That's my thing.
Hey, all right. And like, I want to turn into that. That's who I want to be.
Just want to be a 70s guy with a weird mustache.
Yes, that is what I want to be.
That's amazing.
Well, Mike, we wanted to say thank you once again for joining us and giving an hour of your time on a weekend to just really share some really awesome conversation.
Definitely.
As well as the LinkedIn community and, of course, other social media platforms now about your unlearned story. So thank you on behalf of all the co-hosts once again for joining us.
For sure. Thank you guys so much. It was amazing chatting with you all. So always looking forward to chatting together.